So today we are going to discuss verses related to Karma Yoga. This is, of course, a very principal component, one of the most important parts of the Gita. And when we first hear about Gita, it is all about karma, about Karma Yoga. And one of the most famous verses of the Gita is Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. So this is a verse we have heard many times. Uh, or basically one of the most popular verses of the Gita. Therefore, the first picture that comes to our mind when we hear about Gita is the principles of karma. So we are going to look into this. What are the descriptions of karma yoga? What is the definition of karma yoga? To some extent, we have already discussed it directly, indirectly, while discussing the principle of yoga, the principles of self-control, mind control. While doing all these discussions, we have indirectly many times referred to the principles of karma yoga also. And we have, in fact, also discussed the. So, anyone of you like to share that definition once again? What is the definition we have discussed for karma yoga in our previous session? Anyone? Anyone would like to speak out, like discuss or share the definition that we have gone through for karma yoga in our previous sessions?
It was like to work your job very sincerely. If you are doing your work very sincerely, it is Karam Yoga.
Yeah, means doing it sincerely and
performing your duty.
performing
your work as duty. Yeah.
And anything else? Performing our work as duty as sincerely as possible. Anything else? There's a very core aspect. All throughout we have been discussing a very core aspect of yoga. So that is what I want to bring about. Any other component? So two things we got.
Doing the don't think about the result. Hello?
Don't think about the result. Okay. Anything else?
And you work for the society or for the organization, not for your personal gain. That is Karam Yoga.
Yeah. So personally, not working for our own personal gain or our own selfish purposes. And more detail, if we go a little bit more detail into it, what does it mean by working for our own personal self-interest? That means working for gratifying our own senses, subtle senses and gross senses. So this is the technical answer, right? So if we are doing any work for gratifying our own mind or our own body, then it is going to basically it is going to cause bondage. That is not karma yoga. Karma yoga means when we are acting without basically selfish interest, without the intention to gratify our body or mind for a higher purpose, for our own well-being, for our own upliftment, for purifying our consciousness, for elevating ourselves. So that is karma yoga. So we have discussed several daily life examples also, like how can we make the process of eating karma yoga, right? So eating is necessary for life, but often we end up eating just for the sake of gratifying the tongue. So even when we are satisfied in terms of hunger, we may keep on eating because the tongue likes it, or we may choose food which are more satisfying to the tongue without worrying about the effects on the health. So there, what we are doing is we are trying to gratify our bodily senses. We are trying to acquire some pleasure out of the food. We are not aiming for the higher goal, which is basically well-being, which is basically keeping ourselves healthy mentally and physically, so that we can perform our duties in the best possible way. So rather than focusing on the real objective of food, we are degrading. We are basically following the dictates of sense organs, in this case the tongue, and of course, trying to satiate the mind, trying to derive pleasure to the mind also, because mind is the king of senses. So whatever pleasure is derived through the tongue, ultimately mind enjoys it. It basically happens through the mind. So ultimately, in those cases also, we are trying to gratify the mind and the senses. Uh, Likewise, we have taken several examples. Let us, see one by one as we go through the shlokas We will take several other examples, a little professional life also. So the first shloka that relates to Karma Yoga is in the second chapter itself, in the beginning itself. So here, if we read this, सुख दुःखे समे कृत्वा लाभा लाभौ जया जयो ततो युद्धाय युज्यस्व नैनं पापम अवाप्स्यसि. So here we have sukh dukhe same kritva, means making happiness and distress equal, or being equal or equanimous in happiness and distress. Likewise, labha labhau jaya jayo, whether it is a loss, whether it is a gain, whether it is a victory, whether it is a defeat. Labha labho means profit or loss. Jaya jayo. Somebody please, if you're not talking, please mute yourself here. Let me see. So, labha labho jaya jayo means profit or loss, victory or defeat, doesn't matter. Means that we are equanimous, we are equipoised, we are not disturbed, we are not agitated by the end result. Tato yuddhaya yujjasva nainam papam avapsati. So if you're not perturbed by the result, but just acting for discharging our duties in the right way, in the best possible way, without fretting about the end goal, without fretting about the loss or victory, then it is basically defined as action in equanimity or karma yoga. Then it is being said that tato yuddhaya jasva nainam papam avapsyasi. If you fight like that, then you will not incur sin. Because Arjuna was worried about sin, that if I kill so many people, if I kill my own relatives, then I will be incurring sin. So then the answer to that is that if you do not worry about the result, if you do not worry about your own personal revenge, but act as a duty, because as a Kshatriya, it is your duty to eliminate the evildoers and eliminate the people who are, not on the side of dharma, who are basically doing all kinds of wrong activities. It is your duty to save the country from their hands. Therefore, as a higher duty, you should definitely eliminate the evildoers, the wrongdoers. So that way you will not be tainted by sin. So this is the starting verse, and let us go deeper and let's see what else is being said. So this slok also comes in the second chapter, most famous sloka that all of us know. Karmanne vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala hetur bhur mate sangosva karmani. So if you look at the first line, karman eva adhikar aste. So it means you have right only to perform your karma. You have got your body, you have got your mind, you have got your intellect. You are capable of performing karma. You have to take the decision what karma to perform, what not to perform, based on the right knowledge and right understanding. So you have the right to perform your karma, but you don't have right to claim the result. If don't think that because I have performed this karma, I have worked hard, definitely I have a right on the result. So that is being said, you don't have necessarily the right on the result. Now, the reason for this, again, if I try to understand why you don't have right on the result, because elsewhere, if I remember, there is another shlok which also relates to karma, and it says that Sham hi manushe loke siddhir bhavati karmaja. So here in this particular verse, Krishna says that in the world of human beings, the work basically fructifies very quickly. If you try to put effort in a work, or you sincerely, if you put wholehearted efforts in any work, it is easy to get the result. So that is coming somewhere else in some other shlok. But here it is saying that you don't have right on the result. You do your work, you don't have right on the result. Don't assume that just because you have done your best, you definitely should get the result. If a student who is preparing for an exam or a competition, he has put his best, he has done his preparation well, he has worked hard, he has put best effort, but it's not necessary. He cannot claim that yes, because I have prepared, I should be definitely getting into this competition, I should be successful. There is a chance that he may fail. So he has to be ready for that, because there are many factors, right? So for deciding the outcome of a result, there are many factors. It is not just his own action in the present time, but according to the law of karma, there are many other factors that also come into picture, like maybe his previous karma, like his previous karmic record, and there are other influences also. So he has a complete, he has a lot of track record of karma, right? So it is he is remembering only the current karma that he is doing for preparing for the exam. But there are many other factors, especially his previous karmic record, which may also affect the result. So every small that happens to us in life, it is influenced by not only our immediate karma, but the past karma also, according to the law of karma. Therefore, this is one explanation why we should not think that because at present we are working on this goal, we should definitely get the result. It is possible that despite our best effort, despite our sincere effort, we may not get the result, and we have to be ready for that. That is what it means. So in the next line, it says, Ma karma phala hetur bhu. Ma karma phala hetur bhu. This means, Ma means don't, karma phala hetu. Karma phala hetu means cause of the result of your work. So don't think that you are the only cause of the result of your work. Although you have worked, although you have performed your action and you are getting some result, maybe don't take pride in assuming yourself to be the cause of the result, because again there are many factors. There are circumstances, there are factors, there are other people. So there are many multiple factors coming in deciding the result of a particular work, and therefore you should not
The
always.
person you are speaking with has put your call on hold. Please stay on the line. आप जिस सुबह
So here also it says that do not assume yourself, do not take pride in assuming yourself to be the reason for your result, because there are multiple reasons, and if you start assuming yourself to be the only reason of the result, then it's going to basically not let you detach yourself from the action. So it is saying that you should not basically take pride, you should not take unnecessary ego in assuming yourself to be the performer of the action and the doer of the work and the reason for the result of your action, because there are many other factors also which are coming in the later chapter. There is a verse which basically tells us other factors also, what are the factors which basically decide the result of a work. So we'll come to that. And then it says that ma te sangostva karmani. So don't also get attached to not doing your work. Sangostva akarmani. That means do not become attached to not doing your work. So first of, there are two instructions here. First is don't assume yourself to be the result of, or basically the reason for the result, because there are many other reasons. Don't take pride. Don't get puffed up if you get good result. Don't get too depressed. Don't get too agitated if you do not get the result, because there are many factors which decide the result. So be detached, do your best, and then see what is the result coming. If the result doesn't come, then you put your effort in a new way, put your effort in a new direction to perform better, maybe try to change your strategy. All that is in your hand, because you have the freedom to work. You have the freedom to decide upon your strategy. You have the freedom to choose the right action. You have the freedom to choose the right resources. All that you have. But don't assume you have the right to result. Don't assume yourself to be the cause of your goal, cause of your outcome. And also, if you do not get desired outcome, or if you are too agitated, don't take to inaction. Sometimes it may happen that, okay, I performed so much of work, but I am not getting the desired result. Let me not perform any action now. That's what he's saying. Do not also do that. Don't commit to inaction just because of circumstances, just because of frustration, just because of your unwillingness or any other kind of negative state of mind, maybe fear, maybe anxiety, maybe depression. Don't let these negative state of mind, negative emotions let you commit to inaction. So because of not getting the result, many times we may be motivated to stop the action. Well, I'm not going to do anything further. I am defeated. I am done with this process, and I am ready to surrender. So he's saying that don't do that also. So reasons for this will become clear. Right now we are just saying some statements. These are the statements. Let us see what are the reasons for this. So in this verse, it says, Yogastha Kuru Karmani Sangam Taktva Dhananjaya Siddhyo Siddhyo Samo Bhutva Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. Again, the principles that we are studying is same. Yogastha Kuru Karmani. So that's why we have spent so much time in understanding yoga. What is yoga? So he's saying here, Yogastha Kuru Karmani. First, establish yourself in yoga. Yogastha, become Yogastha. That means establish yourself in yoga and then act. What does it mean by establishing oneself in yoga? That means becoming self-controlled, practicing self-control, elevating ourselves from the level of body and mind. We have repeated this many times because this is the very core of yoga. Not getting entangled in the lower nature. So remember that hierarchy. We have to remember that hierarchy all the time. Lowest is the body, above that is the mind, intelligence, and ego, and above that is the Atma or the self, which has the determination, which is the decision maker. So we have to be at the level of the self. We have to be the observer and controller of the lower self or lower aspects of our personality, which is mind, intelligence, ego, etc. The software part, the subtle part, and the body, which is the gross part. So we have to be detached from these two levels. We have to arise above these and then stay situated as a self, as the observer, as the operator. Then only we can have full control on the lower self, that is the mind, intelligence, and the body. If we are in that state, if we are becoming controllers of mind and body, then we are yogastha. We are situated at the level of the self. We are not attaching ourselves too much with the body and mind. So what happens if we are emotionally too distressed? What happens? Why we are distressed? Because we are too attached with the mind. We are not able to elevate ourselves from the mind. We are not able to control the mind. We are not able to basically observe the thoughts of the mind and see that it is just mental functions. These are just thoughts going on in the mind. That means I can always subdue them. So much agitation comes, so much irritation, worry, fear, anxiety, depression, any kind of sorrow. It comes because we are too entangled in the mind, in the thoughts which are there in the mind. If we are able to elevate ourselves, we will be able to objectively see that, okay, these are just a set of thoughts. I mean, I should be able to elevate myself. My thoughts are not me. My body is not me. They are my thoughts. They are my mind. They are my body. So I should be able to control them. I should be able to elevate myself above that, and I should operate as a full controller. That is yogastha. If I become yogastha, then doing the action in this way is possible, right? So earlier we saw the instruction that do not get attached to the result. Do not assume that you have the right on the result. So how will it be possible? It will be possible if we become yogastha, because then we are detached from the effects of external things on our body and mind. So if we are detached from the functions of body and mind, then whatever happens in the external scenario, whether loss is happening or victory is happening or profit is happening, gain is happening or loss is happening, doesn't matter, because these are external circumstances. This definitely gives us some effect, but we should not get agitated. We should be able to control the mind. The mind should not get too restless and too agitated, and should not go out of control because of these external results, these external happenings, these external circumstances. That is the process of yogastha. Yogastha kuru karmani. Sangam tyaktva dhananjaya. Sangam means attachment. Tyaktva means giving up. So giving up attachment, you should act. Attachment to what? So we are attached to, again, the results, the outcomes, because we want to enjoy the outcomes, right? So sangam tyaktva, we are attached to outcomes of the result. If this happens and if this result come, I will be so happy. I will be, satisfied. I will be able to tell it to my friends and relatives. I will be so much praised. I will get so much respect if I am able to accomplish this goal. So all this planning keeps on happening in the mind. If this particular project gets successful, I will get so much money. I will make so much profit. and from that profit I will buy this property, I will buy this and that, I will deposit that much money in the bank account. So all that planning keeps on happening. If I crack this exam, then I will get into this institute, and from there I will get a good job. And therefore, all this planning happens because I'm trying to enjoy the result, right? Before the action has started, action might not have even started. Action is happening right now, or I'm just planning to do the action, but in the mind, I am making the plans for enjoying the result. And all that is happening because the focus is on enjoying the result. The focus is that mentally I should be able to enjoy the outcome. So that's what is being said. You stop that process. You stop that focus on the result. You stop that tendency, that greed to enjoy the outcome. Forget about that. Don't think that you are the enjoyer. You are doing your activity as a duty. If you are a student, assume that being a good citizen and leading a good professional life, getting into a good profession, contributing your best is a duty of a citizen. You should definitely try to get into a good profession, try to serve well. That is the duty. But just to get there, if you are making 3-4 years of your life hellish, just thinking, getting agitated, and worrying so much about it, it is going to definitely cut down your efficiency and cut down your abilities. So don't fret so much about what is going to happen, or how you are going to enjoy the outcome, or if the outcome is not favorable, how you are going to suffer. Don't think about all that. Think about discharging your duty in the best possible way, because you have the right to do that. You have full right to execute your duties, perform your duties in the best possible way. You have the resources for doing that. So focus on that rather than focusing on the outcomes. That is Sangam Tyaktva, for leave your attachment to the end result. Leave your attachment to the sense of enjoyment that you will get on success, or leave your attachment to the sense of fear that you will get if you don't get the result. So all these attachments to the wrong things are problematic, and you should overcome that. That is what is being said. Sangam Tyaktva Dhananjaya. Yoga stha kuru karmani. First, establish yourself in yoga. Have control, practice control over your mind and body. Become situated in the level of self, and then act. And do not get attached to the end result. Do not get too attached to the outcomes. Siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva, again the same thing. Whether it is success or failure, siddhi asiddhi. Samo bhutva, become equanimous. And then this is called samatvam. Samatvam means equanimity. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Being situated in equanimity is called yoga. That is what is being mentioned. That what is yoga? Yoga means samatvam. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Being situated in equanimity is called yoga. So again, this process is being repeated. And siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva, again, how will it come? How will it be able to realize this? Through the process of controlling the self, controlling the mind, controlling the thought, practicing that process of yoga, practicing the process of self-elevation. That is the core. We have discussed this again and again. That is the only reason why I covered the principles of yoga, mind control, etc. in so much detail. Next verse, if you see, Buddhi yukto jahatiha ubhe sukrite duskrite tasmad yogaya yujyasva yoga karma sukaushalam. So here, the first line says Buddhi yukto jahatiha, means Buddhi yukto, by being aligned in yoga. Buddhi yukto means aligned in yoga by intelligence. Buddhi yukto means buddhi se dwara, buddhi se yukt. Because ultimately, if you have to control the mind, it has to happen through buddhi. Buddhi, the intelligence, the decision-making power, the intellect, the right knowledge, that plays the role. If we acquire the right knowledge and then apply it, then we practice application of it in controlling the mind. That is buddhi yukto. So through the buddhi, through the intellect, we can overcome the results, to good and bad results, sukrite, duskrite. So there will be some results which are good, there will be some results which are bad. We will keep getting this because the nature of life is like that. It will not be monotonous all the time. Sometimes we will get good results, sometimes we will get bad results. It is always there. But by the help of our knowledge and intelligence, we can overcome this. And that will happen if we are established in yoga. So tasmad yogaya yujasva. Therefore, be established in yoga. Tasmad yogaya yujasva. Therefore, be established in yoga. And again, how to establish in yoga, we have seen many times with the help of intelligence, with the help of right determination, practicing the control of mind, practicing the control of thoughts, practicing, complete subduing the mind and its thoughts, because that is the main pivot. Unless we are able to control the thoughts and the mind, we are not in yoga. So we should practice this, meditation process, this self-control process so much that, we gain proper control on our thought process, on our mind, so that we can direct the mind in the right direction. We can choose what to think, what not to think. If there are certain thoughts which are agitating to us, we should be able to pause it, just delete that. If we know that certain thoughts are creating unnecessary anxiety, fear, restlessness, agitation, we should be able to stop there, right there. And we should have that much control to choose which thought should come to my mind, which thought should not come to my mind. That is called self-control. That is the process of yoga, choosing what to think. Generally, we are on autopilot. If we don't practice yoga, we are on autopilot. Whatever, random things keep coming in an uncontrolled way, and that will lead to disaster, because then, whenever difficult circumstances come, the mind will take us into the lowest ditch. All kinds of depression, negative things will happen. And when there is something good happening, it will, cause exuberance, means we will feel elated and uncontrolled way. So that is, both the things are bad. So having, first thing is having control on the mind with the process of practice, and that control basically helps us being situated in yoga, helps us in elevating ourselves above the mind and the thoughts, processes, etc. Becoming an observer and the controller of the mind and body. Then we are in a better situation. Then we are in a better situation to handle any positive, negative things, because then we see that whatever activities are happening, whatever results are coming, whatever ups and downs are happening, they are external to me. They are circumstances in the world. Their nature is to change. Nature of the, the very nature of the external world, the physical world, the prakriti is to change, right? And therefore, we should be ready to accept that. So we should not be getting too perturbed. This level of control will come only if we practice this process of self-control and yoga, practice this process of mind control, thought control, etc. Therefore, it is being said that if you want to achieve this status, that you want to be equanimous in loss and victory, in all the situations, you want to maintain your equipoise, your equanimity, then you have to be situated in yoga. Tasmadi, therefore you should be established in yoga. Tasmadi yogaya yujasva, yoga karmasu kaushalam. Now this line, yoga karmasu kaushalam, this means yoga is the art of doing work. If you are doing your work by being established in yoga, first you are establishing yourself in yoga. That means you are establishing yourself in equanimity, you are practicing self-control, you are practicing mind control, and you are practicing mindfulness. Then you are establishing yoga. You are acting at the level of the self. You are not perturbed by your lower faculties. You are not perturbed by the turbulences in your mind. You are not perturbed by the agitations that arise in the body. Then you are acting while situated in yoga. So that is being called as yoga karmasu kaushalam. Means yoga is the art of work. Yoga karmasu means of work, and kaushalam means skill. So the right skill to perform work is to be established in yoga. That's what the meaning is. Yoga karmasu kaushalam. And this line happens to be the motto of IIT Kharagpur also. If you see the logo of IIT Kharagpur, this line, this part of the shloka is printed at the bottom. Yoga karmasu kaushalam is the motto of IIT Kharagpur. Next, if you see here, even if you have questions, please feel free to ask. I have taken a lot of shlokas and all these are connected to Karma Yoga. In between, if you have questions, feel free to interrupt me. Now here, this is a shloka from 3rd chapter. And here, Krishna is trying to convince Arjun that Arjun asks a question. He asks that means I can cultivate knowledge, I can cultivate the Gyan, right? So Krishna also talked about Gyan, cultivating the right knowledge and getting detached, abstaining from all the sense gratification, self gratification, being self satisfied. So once a person tries to cultivate knowledge and cultivate Gyan and becomes detached from the results, right? Then the question may arise that if I am not concerned with the result, means if I am not perturbed by the result, if I have no attachment to the result, why should I act? Right? So that's what Arjun is also asking. You are asking me to get detached from all the results. How should I act then? Means why should I act? I should just cultivate the right knowledge. I should become a jnani. I should obtain jnana. Means that you are telling me the good things. I should assimilate it. I should become a yogi. I should become self-controlled. I should have good control on our mind and body. After that, why do I need to act? I can just become a yogi, and I should do meditation somewhere. Why should I act? Why should I commit this heinous activity of killing so many people? Let me become a yogi. Let me become a meditator. That's what he's asking literally. So in answer to that, Krishna is saying here that nahi kaschanamapi jato tishtatya karma krit karyate yavashah karma sarvai prakritirjai gunai. That means nahi kaschit chanam api, not even for a single moment, for a chana, jatu tishtatya karma krit. You cannot stay inactive even for a single second. Tishtati akarmakrit. You cannot sit inactive even for a single second. Karyate hi avashah karma. You are bound to act as per the forces of nature. Sarvai prakriti jairgunai. Karyate hi avashah karma. You are avashah means forcefully, without any choice, without any option. You have to work. We have to basically sustain your body. And you have to work according to the prakriti that you have, according to the nature that you have acquired. So some people, depending upon the nature, the tendency to act may be different. Some people are more intellectual. Some people like to do more physical work. Some people are more valorous and want to become administrators or army people. Some people are more business oriented, finance oriented. So everybody has their own instinct. According to their own instinct, according to their own nature, they act in a certain field. They have their own choices. So what he's saying is, even if you try to become inactive, the nature is such that you will be forced to act in certain way. Means in one way or the other, you will be acting, because even to survive, your body has to act. You have to eat food. You have to breathe. You have to basically walk. You have to do all the activities. That is also karma. So you have to act to sustain yourself. You can't sit inactive even for a single moment. The nature will force you to act. Next verse is niyatam kuru karmatvam karma jayo hiya karmanah sharira yatra pichate na prasiddhed akarmanah. The same thing is the basically continuation of the previous discussion. It says that whatever is niyatam karma, niyatam means as per nature, whatever karma you have acquired, whatever duties, responsibilities you have acquired, you should do that effectively with full enthusiasm. Because karma jayo hi akarmanah, because doing your activities in the right way is always better than being inactive. Karma jayo hi akarmanah. That means doing your activities sincerely is always superior to being inactive. And the next line, it says the reason, Sharira yatra pichate na prasiddhe. That means the journey of the body will also not be possible if you do not act. Because the body is ultimately supposed to be sustained, maintained. It has to be protected. So even for maintaining the body, you have to do the work. You need to feed it. You need to protect it. You need to clean it. You need to, live. And for that life that you have been given, karma is required. Karma is essential. Without karma, you can't sustain yourself. So therefore, it is being said that whatever you even if you have this wrong notion of giving up everything and going to the forest and becoming a meditator, ultimately there also you will be forced to work. You will be ultimately working for satisfying your hunger. So here also you are working. Ultimately, in any condition you have to work, and therefore you should not basically think of becoming a basically recluse and not working, giving up all the work, that is a very bad idea. For sustaining yourself, for sustaining the society, for sustaining the overall structure of the society, you have to work. Next verse, if you see, yes, yani manasa niyam yarapte Arjuna karma indri karma yogam asakta sa vishishyat. So some more definitions of karma is being given, karma yoga is being given. So here if you see, yes to indriyani manasa niyam yarapte Arjuna. So one who controls the senses using mind. So mind has to be controlled, right? And mind has to be controlled through intelligence. So finally, yes to indriyani manasa. That means from the controlled mind, you have to control your senses. Because if the mind is controlled, the senses will automatically be controlled. So once who has a controlled mind and senses, and then he is applying his mind and senses in the action. So again, the same concept that first of all, you have to control the mind and senses. You have to become self-controlled. And with those controlled mind and senses, you have to act. That is karma yoga. Karma indriya karma yogam asakta vishishyate. Without being attached. Karma indriya karma yoga. So all the karma indriya means all the action, all the faculty of action are applied to action, are applied to work. Karma indriya karma yogam. That means all the faculty of action are applied to work without getting attached to the work, without getting attached to the result. That person basically is special. That person is the actual karma yogi. That is what is being said over here. The same concept, right? So if you see this concept, that core concept is being same. It is iterated so many times so that we get it right. So the same process that yes to indriyani manasa niyam yarapte Arjuna. First you control your mind and senses, then you act. Without controlled mind and senses, if you act, you will always end up in a disastrous situation. You will get agitated, you will get frustrated, you will get depressed, you will get upheavals up and down because you're interacting with the world, right? So when you're acting, when you're doing your work, you are interacting with so many people, so many circumstances, and all of them have their own package of mind. They have their own package of thought processes. They are having their own attitudes. Everybody's having their own stuff. And likewise, there are so many circumstances, which determine the outcome of the result. So there are so many people, so many circumstances on which the outcome may depend. And therefore, if you are getting attached to the outcome, you will keep, you will basically be facing so many fluctuations all the time, and you will keep getting stressed and agitated all the time. That is not the right way to work. If you want to work peacefully, joyfully, the only way is first step back. First, you elevate yourself from your mind, become the controller of mind, become the controller of senses, and then be situated as the self and act as the self. Then you can be in equanimity, and then you can be the real karma yogi. Again, the same message is being repeated. Now here, if you see, the concept of yajna is coming. Yajnarthat karmonnatra logo yam karma bandhanaha tad artham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samacharaha. Yajnarthat karmonnatra logo yam karma bandhana. What does that mean? That means yajnarthat means for yajna. Karma, karmano anyatra. The karma should be performed as a yajna or for yajna. Anyatra, otherwise, loko yam karma bandhanaha. Otherwise, there is karma bandhan in this lok or in this world. The first line means that you should do your karma for the purpose of yajna. Anyatra, otherwise, there is karma bandhan. Otherwise, there is this karma chakra. You will be trapped in the karma chakra. So now we are going towards deeper reasons, deeper philosophy, deeper mechanisms. So here the karma bandhan is being discussed. That if you act for your own gratification, if you act for gratifying your own desires, your own mind, your own ego, your own body, if you always act focusing on these lower faculties, then you will be trapped in the karma chakra. You will have to face the reaction of whatever action you do. Some reactions, some result may be good, some result may be bad, and you will be facing that all the time. So whatever work happens, whatever things you do, you will always have to face the reaction of that. So it is a karma chakra. But if you perform your work as yajna, yajna means sacrifice, right? So this concept I have discussed earlier also. So yajna means uh, sacrificing our energies, our effort, our wealth, our all the capabilities towards a higher goal, not trying to gratify our own petty mind and thoughts, rising above that and working for a higher goal. That higher goal may be simply our own self purification. If we just execute our duty in the best possible way, for our organization, for our society, for our country, wherever we are, whatever position we are in, if we perform our duties to the best of our capability, without focusing too much, without focusing too much on our own selfish gratification, then we are performing yajna. Then we are acting as yajna. Then our work becomes like a yajna. It is becoming like a sacrifice. Generally what happens, whatever we do, we have our own interest behind that. We should get this, we should get that, we should enjoy this. So always there is some interest or the other. So what is being recommended here is, you do your work as yajna, then you will not be facing this karma bandhan, action reaction. Automatically it will happen, right? So if I give up, if I raise above my mind and body, if I have full control over my mind and body, then whatever happens, means good or bad, whatever ups and downs, biggest upheavals in life, I will be detached from that. I will not face the fire of that. I will always remain equanimous, I will always remain cool, I will always remain equipoised, right? That is called yajna, arthat karmonitra. I am discharging my duty as a yajna, as a sacrifice, just to purify myself, just to execute my responsibilities in the best possible way and elevate myself from the lower prakriti. Tad artham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. Tad artham means for that purpose. For that purpose, if you perform the karma, then you will be elevated, then you will be liberated. Mukta sangha samacharaha, then you will be mukta. That means you will be liberated from the karma chakra. Practically also, in short term also we can see, right? So if we are developing so much mental strength, if we are able to detach ourselves from all these jungles of thoughts and the desires and the worries and the fear, then automatically we will be above all that problem, right? So we will become just insulated from all the upheavals, and then we will not be too agitated. We will not face the the negatives or the bad influences of any action. Even if good happens, we are in balance. We are not too agitated. Even if bad happens, we are not too agitated. So we will be always maintaining that equanimity. So automatically we can see logically also, we will be aloof from the karma chakra. We will not be agitated because of the good and bad results of the action. And more theologically, if we see, every person, every human being has a long karma record, right? So we have been performing our karma all the life, and if you understand, or if you believe, you accept the law of reincarnation, then we have many lives, and in all those lives we have performed many things. Some activities have already resulted in their outcome, some activities are still pending. So there is a lot of backlog also. In many lives we have done some work whose result we may be getting now. So that is the law of karma, right? If you don't believe in that, at least logically we can understand how it works in short term. If we detach ourselves from all the drama of the mind, then we are always situated in balance. We are always cool. We are always established in equanimity. In that state, whatever happens, whatever external factors change, and whatever ups and downs happen, doesn't matter to us. Means we are situated in our own balance. We are peaceful. We are joyful. So that is the self-control. That is the self-regulation. That is the strength of mind which is being talked about. Next, if you see here, we have some examples given. कर्मण्ये विसंसिद्धिम् आस्थितः जनकादयः लोकसंग्रहम् एवापि सम्पश्यन् कर्तुमर्हसि. So this is a very logical verse once again that talks about Janak, an example. So Janak was the king Janak. So he was regarded as one of the Rajarshi. That means he was a king who was very self-realized, who was like a yogi, and he is being praised over here. His example is being cited over here. that just like in past, great kings like Janak, they have worked as a yogi without being perturbed by all the external factors. They have acted like real karma yogis. They have been established in yoga, they have the right knowledge, they were saturated with the gyan. So it's not that they were agyani, they were always having the gyan of Brahman, they were having the gyan of Atma, they were very knowledgeable, and they were real karma yogi. Despite having that gyan, it is not that they went to forest and started meditating. So they stayed in the society, they discharged their duty in the best possible way. At the same time, they established themselves in yoga. They were always self-controlled. That is the example being given. Lok Sahangraham evapi. Lok Sangraham means for protection of the world, for running the world, for running the society. As an example, you should do it. Therefore, looking at the previous example where great kings like Janaka, despite having full knowledge, despite having all the gyan and detachment, they still worked in the society to the best of their capabilities. They discharged their duties to the best of their strength while being detached, while being established in yoga. So looking at this example, just for the sustenance of the society, just for the sustenance of your nation, you should act. Next verse is also very important. आचरति श्रेष्ठस्तत् एव तरो जनः सयत् प्रमाणं कुरुते लोकस्तत् अनुवर्तते. This is very important. Yad yad acharati shrestha. That means whatever the elite of the society does. Yad yad acharati shrestha. Shrestha means elite, the top people in the society, those who are the most educated ones, the most privileged ones, so privileged class of the society. So yad yad acharati shrestha. That means whatever activities, whatever actions the elite performs, tat tad eva taro janaha. That very action is replicated or imitated by other people, the masses. Sayat pramanam kurute lokastat anuvartate. Sayat pramanam kurute. That means whatever examples he sets. Sayat pramanam kurute. Yat pramanam means whatever examples, whatever standards he sets. Lokastat anuvartate. The general masses will follow that. He will try to imitate that. So this is an example. This is the responsibility on the elite, those who are privileged class, those who have got all the resources, those who are fortunate enough to access the best facilities of life. They should definitely not think of inaction at all. They have to set right example before the society. They should act to the best of their capabilities while being self-controlled. They should discharge their duties in the best possible way without thinking of their own self-interest. Then we say that you are setting the right example. For example, we have seen in recent days so many doctors, policemen, security people, they are discharging their duties, right? So despite having such a big danger in the hospitals, despite having such a contagious virus, they are visiting the hospitals, they are treating the patients, they are helping the people in severe conditions. And many doctors have themselves acquired the disease. Several doctors have themselves lost their life. So what is it showing? Despite having the problem, despite having so much danger in that work, they are still serving. They are still setting up example before the society. They are discharging their duties in the selfless way, right? That's why they get so much praise. That's why the entire nation is praising them. That is the right example being set. Not acting for our own self-interest, forgetting our own selfish interest, but acting for the bigger good, acting as a duty, discharging our duty in the selfless manner, even if we have to suffer loss, not getting too perturbed by that. That is the real karma yoga. We have already seen the example in recent time, and we have already seen how much respect and admiration it gets. So, sayat pramanam kurute. Whatever the elite of the society do, whatever good examples they set, lokastat anuvardate. So we see good news, right? So many news articles come that somebody having enough wealth, they try to help the laborers. So many donations came, and some actors, they tried to basically help so many laborers, not just few, means hundreds and hundreds of laborers in returning their home. So he's setting up an example, and following that example, many other people started doing that. Many other people also started raising money and helping laborers. So this is an example, right? that you are not too attached to your own resources. I have earned my money. This is my money. I should not spend it on others. He's not thinking like that. He's thinking for the bigger good. He is feeling one with the society. He is feeling their pain. He is feeling their distress, and he is basically trying to help them with the best of his capability. He has money as a resource. He has enough money, and with that money, he's trying to help. So he's setting a very good example before the society. And there are many other youngsters who are following that example, who are trying to raise funds, who are trying to go out and help people, distributing food, helping the laborers in many ways. So we have seen, how the elite's action can influence the masses, right? So many people will try to imitate. That's what is being said over here. Yad yad acharati shrestha tat tat eva taro janah yad pramanam kurte lokastadam vartate. If today you run away from the battlefield, you will be setting a wrong example. People will imitate you. They will also try to become recluse, and they'll try to become monks, and they will surrender before wrongdoers. And then what will happen? The nation, we will have the wrongdoers, the evildoers coming in power, and they will destroy the nation. They will destroy the fabric of the nation. Therefore, you should not commit this, cardinal mistake. You should definitely take charge. And these verses, he's setting his own example. He's giving his own example, Krishna as the supreme person. So he says that, na me parthati kartavyam trishu logeshu kanchana nanavaptavyam vartavyam varta eva jakarmani yadi ham na varteyam jatu karmi tindrata mam vartamanu vartante manushya pada sarvaja. In these verses, he says that, oh Arjun, I am the supreme person. Means I have all the knowledge, all the power, everything. Means nobody is higher than me. I am the supreme. Despite that, when I am coming as a human being, I am discharging my duties. Whatever duties I have, whatever circumstances I am in, I am fulfilling my duties. I am fulfilling my duties as the king. I am fulfilling my duties as a political messenger. I am trying my best to establish peace. I am trying my best to basically establish dharma. So whatever is my duty, I am performing that, despite being the supreme person. Because if I don't perform my duty, yadi ham na varteyam jatu karmani atindratah. If I do not perform my duty, if I become idle, then people will follow my example. They will quote me, they will cite me. Therefore, to set up the right example before people, I have to act in the best possible way. People can follow my example. So we have seen that in Ram Avatar, right? So Lord Ram also faced so many ups and downs, so many upheavals. But despite that, he remained in equanimity. He remained in complete balance. So that is what is being said. That mam vartmanu vartante manushya pada sarvaja. So I have to set the right example. Likewise, we as the elite of the society, all the English-speaking people over here, means who have all the benefits, we are probably in top 1% of country in terms of the facilities, in terms of amenities, in terms of income, in terms of resources. So all of us are very lucky people. Vast majority of the country, if you see, they have many problems. Means so many people in the country don't get the right kind of food to eat. They don't have the right nutrition. They don't have the right kind of financial resources. Especially look at the farmers. I mean, so many 60% of the people they have so many financial distress. So we are lucky people. We are very fortunate to be in the top 1% or top few percent of the country, and therefore, elite of the society. If we don't set the right example, it will be definitely a bad precedent. So as the elite of the society, also it is our responsibility to act in the best possible way, to discharge our duties in the best possible way, be self-controlled, contribute to our society, our organization in the best possible way, so that the other masses, the people who are trying to come up to our level, they can also see good examples. They can learn from those good examples. So the last verse that I will take today is this one. Again, here a bit of Adhyatma is coming. So here in this verse, from the 3rd chapter, very core verse, and there is another added element of Adhyatma coming in. Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chedasa nirashi nirvutva yuddhasva vigdajvara. So here he says, Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chedasa. Dedicate all your actions to me. Mai sarvani karmani. Sarvani karmani means all your actions. Sanyasya. Sanyasya means dedicate all your karma, all your activities to me, and be situated in Adhyatma Chetasa. Become situated in Adhyatma. What does that mean? The meaning is again the same. Elevating ourselves from the body and mind, becoming situated as the self, that is Adhyatma. If we are too engrossed in the tendencies of body and mind, then we are gone. We have to elevate from that status and come to the level of self. And that is the process of yoga. And another higher level is that we have seen, right? So the next higher level is that we should connect with the divine. So definitely it is a very big achievement if we are able to become self-controlled, control our mind, control our body, become peaceful, become equanimous. That is definitely very good accomplishment. Beyond that, the higher goal that is described in the Gita is realizing the Supreme, realizing the Paramatma, realizing His grace, realizing that there is a superpower and He's He's omnipresent, omniscient, all merciful, and He's basically the very source of our life. So if we have devotion towards that supreme power and we are acting as a service to Him, means dedicating our acts to Him, so that He is pleased, so that He basically becomes graceful towards us. And okay, whatever circumstances we are in, whatever situations we are in, according to our karma, according to our circumstances, whatever be the activities we are assigned, I will perform it to the best of my capability, and let the Supreme, who is present everywhere, notice that. Let Him notice my effort, let Him notice my selfless activities, and I am performing my activities for His satisfaction. That is the higher philosophy given. So you dedicate your actions to me. I am the supreme controller. I am the rewarder of all the actions. I am the designer of karma chakra. Everything is in my hand. Mat tarantaram nanyat kinchit asti dhananjaya. He says that there is nothing superior to me. I am the supreme person. So he is suggesting here that you work, you basically dedicate all your work to me. All the actions, all the results also dedicate to me. Whatever good or bad happens, let it be dedicated to me. Don't work for your own gratification. Work for satisfying me. Work as a worship. Make your work a worship. And worship me through your work. That is what is being said. So every time a person who is devoted, he can basically channelize his devotion. So he can basically start executing his activity as a devotion. So it says that whatever work you are doing, offer it to me. Just like you offer your, offerings like fruits and sweets and food. Sometimes you offer, different kinds of articles in puja, right? So that is like offering of gratitude towards the divine. Likewise, here also is saying that you have been given so many facilities. You have been given a body, mind. You have given so many resources. So all these resources, all this body, mind, all the facilities, you should be grateful towards that. And you should execute your duties to basically dedicate all the results of your actions, all your duties towards me as a gesture of gratefulness, as a gesture of thankfulness, as a gesture of gratitude. Because your life, your body, your mind, your entire life, your energies are given by me. I am the supreme source of energy. I am the source of life. So everything that has been given to you is coming from me. You should be thankful towards that. You should be thankful that you have such a wonderful life. Means you have at least all the resources in your hands. You have all the capabilities with you. So be thankful, be grateful, full of gratitude. You should work to in a way thank me. So you should basically dedicate your actions to me. So that is another way of elevating our consciousness. Working as a gratitude. So discharging our duties as a gratitude towards the Supreme Person. We may see several examples, right? So if somebody is very devoted, right? If somebody is very devoted to a cause, they will work for that cause without any incentive. For example, in an organization, you may have an NGO, right? So you may have an NGO, and that NGO may not be paying any salary to any person. But there will be a lot of volunteers who are working in that NGO. They are working day and night enthusiastically. Whatever free time they are getting from their job, they are contributing to that NGO. and they are having a group of people who are enthusiastically working behind that cause. Many NGOs are there, right? So some NGOs work on environmental issues, some NGO work on education issue, some NGO work on helping poor with food, some NGOs work on there are many different NGOs basically, different activities in social sector. So you will see that those are volunteering. Those people are volunteering. They are not getting any monetary benefit, but just as a service, they are discharging their duties because they feel that they are this good cause. They are working for a cause. They are devoted to that cause. So that is the example being given here. That the supreme cause means you should feel, you should understand that you are so fortunate that you have all the facilities given. You are a human. You have a human body. Look at other entities, other living beings. They are numerous, innumerable living beings, countless. Means every inch, every millimeter cube has innumerable living beings, and among all the living beings, humans are most special. They have the most developed physical system, mental system. They are the most sophisticated, and you have a human body. You have a human life. You are so capable. Human life is so precious. You should be thankful towards that you have all the right resources, you have all the right capabilities, you have the right mental functionality, and you have all the facilities with you. And therefore, you should act as a gratitude. You should act in devotion. You should act in devotion towards me. You should do your duties as if you are worshipping. So that is the attitude being proscribed over here. So here, so I hope this part again it includes the devotional concept, because there is a linking with the supreme person. There is a concept of devotion coming, acting in devotion. So this is also a very integral part of karma yoga. So those who are having some conception of the divine, who have some devotion towards the divine, they can easily practice this. They can always work with an attitude where they are basically trying to please the supreme person through their activities, trying to dedicate all the work, all the that they are doing, all the effort that they are putting as a sacrifice, as an act of worship. That is what is being suggested over here. So there are many other very interesting that will come subsequently. We will discuss that tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll try to have another session on Karma Yoga and try to close the discussion. So Karma Yoga is very central, and therefore it will require at least a couple of sessions. So I will stop here and see if there is any question. Any question?
Yes.
Yes.
Actually, excuse me.
Yeah, please.
Actually, you told this Nishkam, people should do Nishkam karma. Okay. The karma yoga idea is to that you don't expect your results to do Nishkam karma. But if people are not having a greed, or there is no, they are not striving for incentive, then how a organization they can get more productivity, more by offering different
You got the question. So this has been already answered. So this question has already been answered through the went through, but let me try to explain again. So here the objective is not to discard goals. Goals are important. You should have a goal, right? So goal is not being said that you should not have a goal. Target is there, but do not get too attached to the target. Be equanimous. Whether the target is met or not, you should not get too agitated, too frustrated. So being established in equanimity means whether there is failure or success, be ready to accept that. Have the courage to accept whatever conditions, whatever results come. Put your best effort, but don't get agitated by the end result. That is the question. It's not that you should not have goal. Without goal, we can't work, right? So we should have a goal. Means ultimately we work for a goal, but be ready to accept whatever outcomes come. You have the right on your action. You have the right to perform your action in the best possible way. You have the right to karma. You don't have right on the result. Result may be influenced by many other factors, not only your effort. So don't assume that just because you have put your effort, the result will come. Result may be negative also. Just be ready. Equanimity, achieving equanimity. That is the process of yoga.
Okay.
Any other question? Question. I hope today again the verses are some of the topics are repetitive. I mean, I showed that okay, some of the principal ideas are getting repeated in the verses, but overall, it is basically some fundamental points that are being mentioned. I try to elaborate upon that. So, Mr. Visha, I'm not sure, Visha Goyal ji is asking that practicing karma, no, is karma time dependent? Of course, karma is time dependent because karma and kal, they are all, they go together. So there is always a timing factor. So there are, according to Vedanta, there are several kinds of karma. There are some karma which come into immediate result. There are some karma whose result will come after some time. There are some karma whose result will come in next life. So there are many different kinds of karma. So some karma give you immediate result. Some karma may give you result in the next life. So definitely there is always a time factor as well as the outcome is concerned. Any other question? Any other question? Okay, I hope you understood. Can we know more on these types? So you can have many examples. So, for example, if a person is studying for JEE exam, preparing for JEE, engineering entrance exam, so there is a time, right? So he has to put his effort for 2 years, and then only the result come after 2 years, right? So there is a time. So continuously for 2 years, 3 years, right from ninth standard, he has to start preparing. He has to prepare himself or herself. Then only at the end, after 2 3 years, he is able to appear for the exam confidently and get the result. So there is a dependency. He has to basically put in an effort from a much earlier point of time. Likewise, there may be some activities whose result will come immediately. For example, if you eat a lot of junk food, you may fall sick the very next day. You may get food poisoning, you may get agitated, your bowel system may go out of order, you may have dysentery, you may have diarrhea. All those things will happen. So that is immediate karma. It will have long-term effect also. In long term, it will degrade your health. When you get old, it will have all kinds of problems. At middle age, you will start facing a lot of problems. So if you don't control your diet, if you regularly consume junk food, it will start giving you a lot of problems gradually, long-term problems, chronic diseases. Or it has also short-term impact, immediate impact. It can give you diseases, short-term diseases. So that is, both short-term, long-term. And of course, means there are a lot of stories in our literature, in Mahabharata, Ramayana, where there is a dependency of, basically the activities performed in one life resulted in action in another life. So in Mahabharata, can you recall any such example where basically action performed in one life resulted in result in another life? Do you remember any such instance from Mahabharata? Many are there. So in Mahabharata, there are several examples, right? So Shikhandi was an example. So she was a reincarnation of a princess. So if you remember the Shikhandi story, she became the reason for Bhishma Pitama's death. And this was because she had taken a determination. She had taken a resolve in her previous life because of being dishonored by, or she felt that she was dishonored by Bhishma Pitama in her previous life. And she took a resolve that I will be the reason for Pitama's death. Then in the next life, she was born as Shikhandi, and you know the story. So there are many examples in our literature also where the previous life karma result in some outcomes in the present life. Any other question? Any other question? Okay, if you don't have any question, we can close. I hope you like the session, and please, if you have more questions, you can send it through comments and also, to the feedback form. So let us close today. We will meet tomorrow again. Thank you.